Hey, it's Jer.
And it's Sven. And welcome to a Friday edition of Your Daily Detroit. On today's show, a few things we are going to cover around town, including the legacy of John Thompson, the longtime owner and character extraordinaire of the legendary Detroit watering hole, Honest John's, who died recently.
Yeah, it's something we recorded a bit ago, but got shifted around, so we are going to share that today. I'm really excited to do that with you. So let's get started for Friday, August 21st, 2020. All right, well, there's been another thing canceled due to the coronavirus: fan attendance for the first two home games of the Detroit Lions at Ford Field. The organization said Friday that the games against the Chicago Bears and the New Orleans Saints will be fanless. It seems the team is still hopeful it can eventually admit fans inside Ford Field, as they're selling 3-game ticket plans for the 6 remaining games. Ford Field has seen some changes to deal with COVID-19, including a new air filtration system, more than 250 touchless hand sanitizers, cashless transactions, electrostatic sprayers, and your game day food will be prepackaged. We did a quick poll up on our Twitter at The Daily Detroit, and so far, about 75% of our followers think that there will be no fans this year. 16% thinks that things will be back to normal on Game 3, and then a few others kind of straggle in that there won't be fans for, half the season. Looking at the current schedule, if you're going to look at the third home game of the year, that would be November 1st against the Indianapolis Colts.
My money is on no fans, but I think that, we're talking about the NFL here, which is a multi-billion-dollar business. They are going to fight tooth and nail to continue the season and try to fill the stadiums with fans. If anything, I would hope that they would at least limit capacity, like drastically limit capacity, because there's no way that I'm going to feel comfortable enough going into Ford Field and, sitting elbow to elbow with thousands of fans in Ford Field. It's just that no way. That's a terrible idea.
Well, the NBA has been very successful with their bubble model, and they have raked in the dollars because of it. But the NFL, they have so many more players on their roster that it's really hard to kind of control everything with that. And then the amount of space the NFL needs, it seems like they're very intent on doing traveling, things like that. It just feels so touch and go for sports right now.
Well, and I also, and we've talked about it on this show before, I'm going to be really interested to see how well they can keep coronavirus infection at bay, because football is the ultimate face-to-face mono v mono contact sport. You talked about the size of the rosters, all the players on the teams. It is going to be a Herculean effort to keep players healthy. And I can't even imagine how much money they're going to spend just on testing players to make sure that everybody's healthy game in, game out. In a quick update to a story we talked about earlier this week, State of Michigan's request for an additional $300 per week for eligible unemployment aid recipients from the Federal Emergency Management Administration has been approved. A few weeks of additional assistance was made available through an executive order by President Donald Trump. Governor Gretchen Whitmer's office says it'll help around 910,000 Michigan residents. That would mean the maximum weekly aid for now is $662.
There are again election irregularities in the city of Detroit. The Detroit News reports that recorded ballot counts in nearly 3/4 of Detroit's absentee voting precincts did not match the number of ballots cast. That's led the Wayne County Board of Canvassers to ask the Michigan Secretary of State's office for an investigation into the training and processes involved in Detroit's August 4th primary. Additionally, vote counts were out of balance in nearly half of all the city's precincts. That means the number of ballots tracked in precinct poll books did not match the number of ballots counted. A Republican member of the Board of Canvassers says that ballots were put in the wrong tracking containers and that, quote, "it's so inaccurate we can't even attempt to make it right," unquote. Detroit City Clerk Janice Winfrey defends herself by saying the vast majority of precincts were less than 3 ballots off. The Board of Canvassers recommended that the Secretary of State's office appoint a monitor to supervise the training administration. Detroit has had a history of problems under the administration of City Clerk Janice Winfrey. Considering the high number of absentee ballots expected this year, this could be an even greater issue.
All right, now to the world of festivals. Labor Day weekend is quickly approaching, and we've got news about 2 signature festivals that take place at that time. First, Arts, Beats, and Eats will go on this year, but it will morph into a combination of drive-in shows and virtual concerts with the goal of raising $500,000 for local musicians impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. This year's installment is called The Beats Go On, with more than 200 acts, including Thornetta Davis, the Orbit Sons, and Jennifer Westwood. Performances will take place in the parking lot in Royal Oak at 6th and Main Streets. As before, capacity is 50 vehicles with a maximum 2 people in each car. Admission is $30 per vehicle. The juried art fair portion will take place by appointment, while the eats portion of the festival will consist of food trucks stationed in neighborhoods in Royal Oak, Clawson, Huntington Woods, and Ferndale. Head over to artsbeatseats.com for more information. We'll link to that in the show notes.
Then, heading down Woodward Avenue, the 41st Detroit Jazz Festival will go virtual this year, with all performances streamed and broadcast live from indoor sound stages. Performances will go for 12 hours each day and be streamed in real time, but with no replays or on-demand capability. They'll be from 11 a.m. to midnight, September 4th through the 7th. You can hear the performances for free on 101.9 FM WDET, WRCJ at 90.9 FM, and WEMU out in Ypsilanti at 89.1 FM. Or tune into Detroit Public Television and Detroit's new arts and entertainment outlet, Channel 22. There's also a festival mobile app, and they will stream via the festival's Facebook and Instagram pages.
Meanwhile, one festival that won't be happening at all is the Michigan Renaissance Festival. In a statement posted Thursday on Facebook, the organizers said, quote, "We worked hard the last 5 months to develop a plan and mitigation measures which we firmly believe would have resulted in a safe and healthy Renaissance Festival. However, it is clear that the current state directives will not change significantly in time to allow the festival to open this fall. Although we disagree with the current state directives that prevent spacious outdoor venue from opening, we recognize the difficulty of the state government's task. We share their goal of keeping Michigan safe and healthy."
I'd also circle back there, Sven, really quick. I was going to say 2 cars, 2 people in each car. That's pretty crazy for Arts, Beats, and Eats.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works and, whether people are receptive to that. But I mean, on the other hand, I think people are probably kind of starving for some live entertainment right now.
So I'm joining Sven in the backyard here. We socially distanced got together to remember somebody we both knew. We wanted to take some time to properly honor the life of a great Detroiter, John Thompson, who died last month at the age of 66 of congestive heart failure. Thompson, in case you're not familiar, was the former owner of Honest John's Bar on Selden Street in the Cass Corridor.
That's right. Thompson had been out of the limelight here in Detroit for many years now. He sold his former bar back in 2014 to the people behind Sugar House and Wright & Company. He'd been spending less and less time at the bar for a couple years leading up to that even. Thompson opened his first location on Field Street over by Belle Isle back in the late 80s. Look, he was a larger-than-life, eclectic man known for his many charitable ventures, all of which blended drinking and absurdity to brilliant effect. And I just want to add that he spent the last few years of his life in Florida. His wife, Irene, died in 2018.
I have heard many stories of these absurd fundraisers. Sven, I know this news hit you pretty hard. You've always had a soft spot for Honest John's.
That's very true. I mean, Jared, that was the bar of my 30s, basically. I mean, that was I was a regular, essentially, and there's no bar anywhere in all the land that I've spent more time in. I mean, I spent my 30th birthday, my wedding night, and my 40th birthday at Honest John's. I mean, I've actually got a photo of my wife tipping a 40-ouncer of Black Label. That's something that the bar was known for.
If at all possible, sir, you need to share that.
I will try, but no guarantees. But 40 of her tipping, a 40, a Black Label, in her wedding gown in front of the neon Men Lie sign. It's pretty classic. I would add that I had to get permission from John Thompson ahead of time to come in there, not only to come in there on our wedding day, but I said, do you mind if we come in here and take a few photographs? And he said it's fine. I had to ask him that because I distinctly remember him saying that he had a strict no photographs policy inside his bar, because I think he didn't want anybody to get incriminated, because I think he viewed it as sort of a safe space for, you know, all kinds of scoundrels and rascals and so forth.
Well, I mean, that is definitely, it's still a Detroit party thing where there are some places where they don't allow photos. You go to a private event or something, and that's so in contrast to today's world of it's so Instagram friendly. Yeah. But I think that was part of the joy of Honest John's. I have some memories of it myself. You know, I've been around town for a while. I actually started
We're old.
I literally turned 40 next week. So yes, that is I guess maybe that's a definition of old, right? But I remember the very tail end of that near Jefferson location and the hijinks and the fun, you know, to kind of start things off knowing that place was kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I first met John Thompson at his original bar, the old place over on Field Street, over near Belle Isle, which is really a delightful hole-in-the-wall place. Back then it was called Honest John's Bar and No Grill because it, you know, proudly didn't serve any food. He actually was really proud of that. It was kind of a shock when he opened up his new place and had debuted with a menu. I said, what the hell happened? But I remember I was there on my 30th birthday in the freezing cold day in February, and I persuaded him to give me a free shot because it was my birthday. I think, frankly, that he warmed up to me in the beginning mostly because he had the hots for my wife, which is totally okay. I mean, he was just a really friendly, welcoming guy to us over the years. You know, he invited us over to his home. He lived over in the Barry subdivision over by the Manugian Mansion on the east side. Just a really sharing, generous, spirited guy. What I loved about his bars, plural, is that they were just like a slice of life Detroit, and a very old Detroit. You know, you and I sort of talk about old Detroit, new Detroit. It was very much old Detroit. You know, this is a place you'd walk in and you'd have a seat at the bar and you'd be rubbing elbows with like black, white, gay, straight, drag queen, disabled, whatever, you know, like it might be a guy who just got off his shift at the auto plant. It might be like a journalist. It might be a corporate executive, just somebody from the neighborhood. Didn't matter. Everybody was equal there. And it was just like there were no airs, and it was a really welcoming, just warm place, like a really diverse crowd. It was, you know, I loved it. You don't find places like that very often.
No, you don't. And I think to me, as an observer and seeing things over the last 20 years, the biggest difference between today and then, you know, I'm not going to paint some picture that quote unquote old Detroit was perfect, because it wasn't in any way, shape, or form. But some of the things that I loved about it was that no airs, that there were more bars than not that you could go into and there would be a diverse group of people. Now, I really feel like a lot of places I went to pre-pandemic, it is one crowd and one crowd only. It's very monotone, and that's kind of disappointing for me. And it's part of what I long for and miss. And I think about, you know, old Detroit and the fact that, you know, it's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I mentioned that Thompson had a real, he was known for his charitable work. He hosted the annual Dips for Toys, which was basically he would get people to raise money to take a dip in the Detroit River over on Belle Isle each December. And you would use the proceeds to buy Christmas gifts for needy kids in the neighborhood and everything. You know, wonderful charitable event. And it was just a totally absurd event because it entailed everybody getting dressed up. You know, people were wearing like nuns' habits. And I remember there was one guy who always wore a penis mask on his nose. I've got photos. I'm not sharing these, but I've got a photo of me wearing my wife's bikini and a wig, dipping into the river on a freezing cold December night. I mean, just a ridiculous. We'd load into the bus and drink, you know, cans of Black Label on the way to and from, and what a great time. Also, the postcards of everybody lining up in front of the bar, dropping their trousers and mooning the camera. I mean, just unbelievable. You know, just so much fun. You know, a little more history. Thompson opened his new location on Selden in 2002. The bar was formerly known as Elmer's, which Thompson always said was the place where his mom, when he was growing up, she was a hooker and she turned tricks out of that bar, which is a crazy story. I mean, my wife tells this story about hanging out around the corner at the old Miami. This was back in the 1990s. And
they heard all these gunshots coming from around the corner at Elmer's, and then sirens as police kind of swarmed the scene and everything. There was a shooting at the bar. I mean, I can't stress enough that 2002, the Cass Corridor was nothing like the Midtown Detroit that people know today. I mean, Honest John's was like the only thing with the lights on for blocks and blocks around, right? There was no Selden Standard around the corner. There was no She-Wolf, fancy loft apartments. I mean, it was not the kind of place you'd want to walk around at night.
That makes me think, Sven, there was a quote in a news story about him that the people who are spending $150,000, $200,000 to live in the Cass Corridor, as soon as they realize what they've done, they're going to start drinking. I got to say, I don't know if he ever expected it. Now you can there are places $450, $500, and that is not unheard of in the Cass Corridor now. It's funny because there's so many times over the years, and I don't mean this as a slam or anything, but so many times over the years where it was like, oh, this'll never, and then all of a sudden it just boomed to a whole new level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he operated his bar at a time, Detroit didn't have the same cachet as it does now, and it didn't have the same economic momentum. I mean, I remember him telling my wife and I all the time, we were living pretty close to the bar down there in Detroit at the time, and we were talking about buying a house and everything, and he was clear to us that, don't buy in Detroit, go buy in a nice suburb somewhere. He said, don't buy. I mean, even though he was a lifelong, Detroit resident and a huge supporter of the neighborhoods and everything, but he said, don't be stupid, spend your money smartly and everything. But, he also was pre-social media. I mean, I can't imagine if he had still been in business, he would probably not care to ever have a Facebook page or Instagram account or anything like that. Definitely a throwback to, I think, a different era in Detroit for sure. I would just add, kind of wrapping up, that, Thompson, I think during the time I met him, he met his wife, Irene, and I don't remember what she did for a living, but just a really wonderful, warm lady. He was clearly deeply smitten and in love with her, and it was really sweet to see. He began spending less and less time at the bar after she became ill at some point, and then he went through a period where he sold the bar to a couple of his employees, and then, that apparently didn't work out or something. I don't know. Honest John's, of course, is still in business nowadays, owned by the Detroit Optimist Society. It's still totally recognizable as Honest John's, but it's just, inevitably not quite the same place, right? Every time I've been there are more and more things that I recognize that are new and different. The jukebox is totally changed now. The old Honest John's had that amazing jukebox that was filled with old soul and 70s funk and Ohio players and stuff. I mean, there were songs off that jukebox that we heard and we were like, we got to play that at our wedding, and we did. Like Cupid by Sam Cooke and Etta James and all this stuff. I will say that it still has Detroit's finest men's bathroom. I mean, that is a true shithole bathroom, for sure. It's unbelievable. If you do nothing else, go in there just to go, relieve yourself, just to take a look at the bathroom, because it's something to see. But I just want to close, Jared, just saying that I'm glad that I knew John Thompson and was able to meet him and spend time in his bar and just kind of absorb the place, because it was a true gem, and I feel like I'm a better person for it. God bless John Thompson, and rest in peace, my friend.
Cheers, John. All right, that will do it for your Daily Detroit and for the week. If you enjoy what we're doing, if we bring value to your day and you can happen to swing it, becoming a member would be so awesome. You can do that at patreon.com/dailydetroit. It has been crucial in helping us get through, and it really makes a difference. We've got stickers, all that kind of stuff. Plus, if you have feedback, ideas for the show, want to hear your voice on the air, we have our new voicemail line at 313-789-3211. That's 313-789-3211.
And it's also the weekend, so as usual, we give out thanks to Cheyenne Nosarini, Fletcher Sharp, Randy Walker, the rest of the team here at Daily Detroit. Also, thank you for listening. And with that, I'm Sven Gustafson.
And I'm Jer Stays. Have a great weekend. Take care of each other, and we'll get through this together.
In a statement posted Thursday on Facebook, the organizers.
The organizers. That was yesterday, sir.